am I living this thing that I call my lifestyle? And it's a daily reminder of, have I done an act of kindness today, or have I been selfish? Have I been so involved with myself and sometimes that goes with our kids. Sometimes, I don't know about you, I can tell on myself. When I am the greatest, best entrepreneur and I am killing it, I'm probably not the best mom. The days when I'm the best mother and I am like, I am the ish today, I'm not the best boss. I know that. Which is also why this idea of balance, I don't find to be a real thing.
One, two, three,
Hey, and welcome back to the Oz Shift Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Anthony Trucks, and we, again, have an amazing guest. I'm blessed to be able to have cool people happen across the ethers of this world into my weird little space of the internet, which is where we're at now, and we get to have cool conversations. And this one I'm actually excited for. There are a lot of people in the world who teach, who tell stories and teach things, but they don't always come from a place of true understanding from experience. I think it's one of the most important pieces. I tell people all the time, you should not start telling people how to run the race until you've crossed some finish lines. And our guest today has crossed many a finish line in ways that most people wouldn't get past and actually still create something great in life, let alone go give it back to the world. This person was born in a different country, came over here in an interesting, unique way, is tied to faith, which ties to my heart. But on top of that, they've gone through some crazy journeys. They're a mother that had some interesting scares early on in motherhood, but fought through it, got to some points of having some we'll call it awakenings, some Oz shift moments, as you know about, but then created something cool for their own life and then went through and said, I'm going to give us back to the world. And they've been creating something amazing called Lovestyle. And so as we dig into this person's head and heart today, I want you to make sure you extract some cool things that can apply to your life or anybody you know. So without further ado, please help me welcome to the show, Sara Lovestyle.
Gosh, that was one heck of an introduction. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I make them up. I don't know where they come from. You're very welcome. I've done it enough. I've done it enough to think. You know what I found? In anything I do, if I just touch to my heart, the right stuff comes out of my head.
Yeah.
It's been a weird world. I'm sure you can attest to that. So, genuinely excited to talk to you and unpack this all today. And I always start, if you've listened to any episodes, with one singular question. Yeah, you know, go anywhere you want with it. Totally up to you. Here's a question. I'm walking around town. I sit down next to this beautiful woman, yourself, and I don't know you don't know me, but you turn and start talking to me. Why should I listen to you?
Gosh, I have this strange ability to, and maybe it's delusion, but I will make you believe that you are the exception. Because my faith is so important to me. We live in a really tough world right now where people need encouragement, they need love, and they need compassion, which is actually where the Lovestyle part of my brand comes from. And I love to pour into people. And if we're having a conversation, the idea that something is a dream and isn't possible, I'll probably bully you to believe that it's real, because it is. And so I am someone that's going to challenge you, but also have a conversation that is hopefully enlightening, where we can learn from one another, where we're sharing experiences, because a lot of times we're giving advice or based on opinion and experiences, but we don't have to do that if we can share and have an open, honest, transparent conversation about, who we are and where we're going. I have found that most people cannot answer one simple question, and that's, who are you? And so that's probably where I would start.
I like it. Find out where people are at. I agree. I'm an identity guy, and that's a question that I can't even answer sometimes. Like, who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm a dad. I don't know. There's a great book by Michael Singer talks about it, which I think is a good thing. So how would you explain who you are? Like, that's an interesting way that I think, because I know I can't answer it 100%. I can so hard, but I'd love to know, like, if someone says, who are you? How would you answer that?
It's interesting because a lot of times we go into we'll go into either characteristics, or most people will go into their titles, right? They'll say, I'm a mom, True. I'm a husband, I'm a entrepreneur, or whatever. But the reality is, who are you at the core? And so for me, Sara is someone that is compassionate and kind and smart and brilliant. I clearly believe in doing I ams every single day, but also I am faith-filled. I am expansive. I am the exception. I truly believe in everything that I tell myself, even if I don't always believe it. Like this morning, honest moment. I was having an insecure moment where I had to be like, listen, sis, snap out of it. This is who you are. And so having that conversation about I'm smart, I'm brilliant, I'm beautiful, I'm kind, I'm generous. Everything that I am, and even the parts that aren't necessarily the best, is okay, because those are who that makes me.
Yeah. How do you do that? Because there's actually science that shows that, like, we can't trick our brains. If we're like, hey, you're amazing, and you don't feel it, it's like, no, you're lying to yourself. But I know what you're talking about, because for me, I'm the same way. I need to look at my pupils sometimes and be like, bro, you're dope. What are you doing? You're dope. Like, you have to convince yourself. Like, is there a practice that you've learned that works for doing that? Or is it something you kind of navigated randomly? How do you do that in your own life?
So as a child, I'm really blessed. My parents are incredible. Very early on, my father would instill in me, listen, you are kind, you are smart, you are brilliant. And you tell yourself this stuff every single day until you believe it. And then, of course, you become an adult and you realize life is an interesting journey. But again, I am every single day. That's the first 10 minutes of my day.
Explain I am, because I totally get that. And you said it twice, and I'm like, oh, wait, I don't know if everybody knows what that means.
So I do I am affirmations every single morning, 10 minutes. And it may sound dull and boring, but it starts, and I have them written on my mirror on my vanity, and in my bathroom and in my office. So if I'm ever having moments where I'm not feeling beautiful, I can look up and tell myself, I am beautiful. I'm just having a moment. Is this a bad day, or is it just this one very moment where I'm feeling insecure? Is this just one moment where maybe I don't know something and I don't feel like an expert subject matter on this thing, but I have to give myself the grace to learn it? Or get rid of your imposter syndrome for a second, or feel it, which is fine, and then continue to tell myself every morning, I am all of these things that I can be.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's a huge piece of it. I think sometimes belief has got to be rooted in some kind of proof, right? And I love that you said your dad was a person, because now you get some proof to it. And then you provide your own proof. A friend of mine's, Mel Robbins, has this high five, habit she does now, which is all about giving yourself the celebration, this moment. Now, this is obviously great information. And I think that sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, the most important part of information comes from a credible source. And while I've alluded to the things you've done, I'd love for you to kind of take us back to share with people, like, why what you're saying comes from a space of true experience.
I'm going to say my testimony, my story. I have built my entire brand based on my story that I was afraid to tell. And I thought nobody would care. But I was born in a refugee camp in Sudan. Both of my parents separately escaped civil war in Ethiopia, and they met there by a miracle, which is a long story for another day. We end up coming to the States, and I grew up in Seattle. Everything's fine. I go to the University of Missouri. I'm like, yay, my ancestors' dreams. I'm doing it. I get married. I have my son, and at 23, I have a heart attack. And I will never forget being in the hospital about 5 days in, and my dad crying. And I've never seen my dad cry. Once, when his father passed. That's it. I've never seen my father cry. And my dad was crying. And I woke up and I said, Dad, this will never happen again. This will never happen. I need to get it together. And at that point in my life,
what the cause they said was?
Honestly, it was a medical fluke. It was the perfect storm. Turns out I have a low heart rate. I had been induced for 3 days. Didn't work. I had an emergency C-section. It was just too much. And I was heavy, which is my fault. That was not the baby. That was all me, because I couldn't stop eating. So
Pregnancy. My wife have 3 kids. We've always had twins, so I totally get the eating thing. I've seen it. I got baby weight too at one point.
It was all me. And so it was the perfect storm. And so that's how that happened. But I knew at that point that I needed to get my life together and figure out, who am I at this point? Because it's weird. I don't know if this is for you, but when I became a parent, my identity became someone's mother. And all of a sudden it was gone, and I didn't know who I was anymore, or someone's wife or husband, and then it was gone. And then my son at 4 gets diagnosed with autism. And those two things, I would say, those two things forced me to identify what not only am I going to do with my life, but I have a platform. I started Instagram because I was angry and because I was mad. And so I'm like, God, I need you to do something with this. Like, you're not going to give me more than I can handle. My faith isn't shaken, but do something because I'm frustrated at this point. And a therapist once told me that it's okay because you're grieving the life that you thought you would have. And so once I came to accept it for what it was, and then I just kind of dove into my son and dove into what am I going to do now? Because my son is also nonverbal, which was part of my frustration. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And it was so loud. It was one of those, what are you going to do about it? There's technology. We all have cell phones. We have computers, cameras, and everything else. I was so shy, and I'm such an introvert that I would not speak. And God was like, you have a voice, put up or shut up now. What do you do with the voice of God at that point?
Yeah, you
What
got
do
to
you
listen
do?
to it. Yeah, you got to listen to that one. Yeah.
You got to listen. And so that's where the brand started is from a place of, which I would tell people, if you're angry, do something with it. Not destructive, please, but if you can take it, harness it, and capitalize, and hopefully
Change
build
lives.
something that people, and be
It does a whole different
impactful.
thing. Yeah. And I think that's one of the most powerful things when you've had hardship. Like, I think we all have our own versions of hardship. Everybody has their own, some good, some bad. But I think one of the most powerful things, that most powerfully happy people post hardship are those that cathartically shared it. Because you're talking about catharsis, right? It's
Yeah.
this rooted thing. It's in me. Oh, I got to get it out and do something because it's got to be of use to the world. And I have a definite, now I don't have any special needs kids, but I've been around it for the last 12 years. My wife has her master's in special education, and she owns 4 businesses, 3 of which all serve special needs. So she has 2 homes that are 24/7 care for kids. She's a day program. It's like 30-person adult daycare. So like I've been around that same thing. So I get it. And it's tough because when you're in public with your kids, some people look like you're like a leper. It's like, no, this is humanity, right? So I feel, I guess, generally feel the aspect of what you've gone through. And that's scary. As your pops too, going through that, like watching it, I can't imagine my daughter in that. It just scares me. Right? I get the whole part of it. So you got this dynamic. This is all going on.
Yeah.
And now we're at the stage of like, I'm going to share. Now, most people realize as soon as you share, the world doesn't go, yeah, right? Like it's not immediate. Like, what
Right.
was your journey to getting a message refined that resonated, or did it automatically hit?
You know what's wild is I started off as a beauty influencer because I thought like, yay, I would like it. And that was the cool thing to do 6 years ago. And I realized quickly that the power was in my storytelling. And let me tell you, Anthony, the second I started talking, everything changed. The brand changed. The audience changed. People were really receptive. My brand is a lifestyle brand because the fitness element is obviously important because I was overweight and heavy with, during my heart attack. And then as a mom, there's the self-care element, right? Where at least for me, I thought I needed to give and give and give, and I forgot about me. So there's that element. And then there's the element of, And then there's the part about telling the story of motherhood and that journey, and talking about my son was hands down the most difficult part for me. But everyone was so receptive. The brand grew and quickly. Because then it wasn't perfection. I didn't have to pretend to be something that I wasn't. I could talk about, listen, today I am struggling. Today I'm not okay. Or today I'm having a moment and I feel great. And today I'm a successful entrepreneur. Or there are countless parents, mothers and fathers who've reached out and said, you know what, you gave me the permission to take care of myself and to work out and to make myself a priority. And I wasn't taking away from my children. Or a father that says, hey, I was struggling, not knowing how to voice how I was feeling about having a special needs child. And now I can because I feel seen and I feel heard, because the idea and the perception of who I was and who I actually am weren't the same. And people were incredibly accepting of the more I shared, the more real I got. It just grew.
Yeah.
Like it grew so fast.
You give people a connecting point. I think it's one of the things that we all don't realize. It's like you have to have a charismatic leader, but you also have to place they're leading you to.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, you have the background, like, oh, this person gets it. You have a voice, you can talk, but it's also like a clear place of where people are headed. Now, while the brand's called Lovestyle,
hmm
like, what if you were to frame up that destination? Like, where are you taking your people to the end place? We'll call it over your years that people go, holy crap, I got to go with her.
So we had talked about this earlier. Every year, I have one phrase and I have one word that I will write for the year. And typically, because my faith is important, like I feel like the universe, God, whatever you believe in, um, kind of gives it to me. And I knew December of 2021 what the phrase would be. And it was the year of Rehoboth, which is biblical, and essentially it means things that are boundless, endless. It's limitless, it's infinite. That is my word for the year. And I'm gonna actually give you some secrets here. A
Please do.
lot of a lot of what I did in 2019 and 2020 expanded in ways that even I was not prepared for or thought the brand would go. I never thought I'd be an investor. I never thought I'd be in tech. It turns out not only am I in it, I love it. And I'm obsessed with it. But then it expanded to like financial tech, and then it went to educational tech, and then it expanded to um, ownership. Here's what I know, and here's where the brand is going. For example, I don't understand crypto. I get it in theory, but I don't get it.
I say the same.
Okay.
I'm about the same boat.
But what I do understand is the ownership of the platform. So that's where I invested. I may not understand NFTs. So guess what? I found somebody else who understands NFTs, and I invested in the platform where a lot of people sell their NFTs and they do their trading in the NFTs. So for me, it's about ownership. I'm excited to share more about it, especially this year, because I was afraid of imposter syndrome. And I was afraid that maybe I would not be accepted, if I could be honest, because I started as an influencer. And the reality is, if you can influence one person, or if you have one follower, you have one friend, congratulations, you are an influencer, whether you like it or not.
Somewhere, yeah.
And that influence now, I want to be able to show people what is possible. It is truly limitless. If someone, Anthony, would have told me that I would get an accidental butt dial that would get me into the door and get me a seat at a table, which is how my first investment happened. And then that one singular relationship has now led me to a portfolio of 27. And so it just continues to grow. And I plan on sharing more aspects of that and how we can have ownership, especially as, to me, it's important, men and women of color, as a
Yeah.
woman of faith. I want to show, first of all, money's not bad.
Mhm.
The love of
True.
money is bad, but
True.
money itself is not bad. But I also am aware that I need the resources and the finances to create the kind of impact that I want to make in the future. And so for the brand, I just want to show people that it's not only available, but it is possible. This girl from a refugee camp in Sudan can turn into this. If she can, then what can I do? That's what I want to do this year.
It's powerful. And I think that's something that everybody, if I say everybody, people that are going to listen to this in the realm of humans, that's like an aspiration, right? How do I get to the point of having all this? And I love the perspective of investment. While everybody may not be able to invest in 27 companies right now, maybe even one company right now,
Yeah.
there's a mentality around that. I would love for you to unpack, like, did you always have a mentality of investment? If not, what did you have to merge through or work through to get to the point of like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and put my money out there with the risk of not getting it back
Yeah.
to get something? Because while we're talking financial, I think there's also the investment in relationships, there's investment in
Yes.
my health, all these different. So what's kind of been your journey of investment and return?
What's interesting is it started with the investment of a relationship. There's also an assumption that an investment has to be money. It's not. It could be, I realized quickly that I could use the leverage of my platform to get a board seat. I could leverage a company that maybe did not have the funds to pay me as a creator, but you have some shares though. Like, let your girl get a few shares. Like, let's talk about this. Or how do we create something where we can leverage not only just financially, but then it could be with media. There are so many aspects where, as an influencer, that could begin. But also, like, you have a podcast, you want brand partnerships. There are routes to getting a seat at that table. For me, it was, okay, maybe I don't have the money. Let me get in, get the seat, And then it was, can I bring someone else on that I have a relationship with that could be mutually beneficial to that company, or, for the three of us or whatever it is. And now I have more equity in the company. But the way that I invest is the product has to make sense to me, and to follow my instincts and my discernment to determine whether or not am I willing to bank either my time, my energy, or my money that I could lose and never get back. Would it be worth it? And it's the same thing with influence. Could I do this work, or any job for that matter? Could I do it for free and be consistent? And if the answer was yes, then I was willing to put my money where my mouth is. The first company that I invested in, the founder is brilliant. So for me, it was worth it from the jump. Plus, the product made sense. So I want to say it's Kevin Hart that made an analogy when he was teaching his children about investing. And he said, what are some things? Look around the house. What do you see? And the kid said, toothpaste. Okay, cool. Then you invest in the company that makes toothpaste. Colgate isn't going anywhere. Crest isn't going anywhere. So how do you find your way to a seat at that table? Maybe it's not to invest. Is it stock options? Is it, trading? Is it building a relationship with somebody that's there and creating a campaign or a brand? I just did one with Walmart recently. That was on my goal list from 2016 that I wanted to work with Walmart.
It's cool.
It just happened in December. I can't invest in Walmart. It just is what it is. However, what I can do is partner with somebody who has a seat at the table and build that relationship. And that's how you get there.
I like it. And what I'm hearing in the background of all of it too, because I always listen to the ears of like, who's someone who's going, I'm not that level. I'm not Sara. How do I get to that level? And I think part of what's an underlying aspect is you built this confidence in the product. You said, I believe in the product. And the moment you said it, I'm like, but you're the product at the same time. Like, how did you develop this sense of belief in self? Was it through action? Did you fail? Like, what was that journey like to get to this point of having this anchored? Like, you know what? I'm going to step out here on faith, but I have faith in me beyond just faith in this thing.
I probably failed 3 businesses before Sara Lovestyle.
We didn't hear that just now. I love it.
I made an investment in 2014. It was my first, and every part of me said, don't do it. Every part of my instinct said, don't do it. And I did it because I felt pressure, and it bombed. And so failure is a part of the journey. It just is what it is. But every one of those failures, though, was a lesson to teach me what not to do the next time I do it again and over again. I think the one thing that all entrepreneurs have in common is we're not afraid to fail. It just is what it is. It's part of the journey. And not to mention, no harm, no foul. I failed. Who cares? Who cares? And what? And I got to fail in the dark. I got to make mistakes quietly. I got to take risk. We are so afraid of taking risks, and we're afraid of what people think. We are afraid of, what if it doesn't come back, or what if I don't come back from it? As long as there's really no physical damage to a process or to something that you're doing, you failed, and so what? My dad used to ask me as a child, and it used to get on my nerves, and he would ask me, what did you fail at today? And it used to make me so mad. I am a perfectionist. I'm a straight A student. But what did you fail at today? And I'm like, nothing. No, I was great. But what he knew that I didn't realize at the time, and I do this actually with my sons now, is that means I never gave myself the opportunity to fail. I didn't try anything.
Never tried hard enough. Yeah.
I didn't try.
Yeah. It's a different way
do
of
I
looking
really
at it.
want to stay? Do I want to stay here? Do I want to be in my safety net forever? Do I want to live and die right here in my comfort zone? And the answer for me is no. Heck no.
Yeah. And the thing is, many people, it's no. I would say everybody's like, nah, I don't want to be here. But few people will take that step out and do the thing, because there's this weird, like you said, there's this weird thought of like, what if it doesn't work out perfect? There's a great book by, I think, Tamara Lowe. I think it's called Motivation. It talks about drives, needs, and awareness kind of things. One of the differences of needs for some people is one person needs stability, another kind of person needs variety. Like my best friend's 9-to-5 job, police officer, he needs stability. This idea of stability makes my stomach turn. I need variety. And I think what you're leaning into is saying like, variety is going to lead to ups and downs, but if you lean in and you learn, I find that over time you have less downs. You have more ups because you learn. but I
Yeah.
need to have the ability to try and test. Like, would you say that you're a person that it almost leans more towards, I got to try new stuff? You're like a creator in that base?
If you would have asked me that question 5 years ago, I would have told you, heck no. I like
Interesting.
stability and safety.
Yeah.
But in the last 5 years, and especially in the last two, I'm kind of no holds bar. I love the variety. I love it. My hands typically, even with investing or with creators, they tend to have their hands in one niche and one space. And I'm like, no, I want 5, 6, 7. It doesn't even matter if the stuff doesn't go together. I want to try it because adaptability is important. You have to be able to pivot in life.
Yeah.
It's a crucial skill that we have to have. And if you don't, you essentially stop here. And the idea of comfort and growth together doesn't work. It can't happen.
True.
So do I want to be on my, but see, I had the heart attack. So at 23, had I done enough? And so for me, I think a lot, that's what turned me into this person that likes variety and not necessarily stability. Is life is short. I know what it's like to lay there and not know what's next.
Yeah.
And so
It's a scary place to
I
be.
have to have it.
Yeah, I get it. I'm kind of same boat. I feel my buddy one time, he goes, man, I got 17 more years. And that made my stomach twist up. The thought of it, I was like, oh, I am not built for that kind of life. I
Mm-mm,
like what you said a moment ago as a skill, because that's one of the things that I think people don't grasp. It's not a personality trait. It's a
mm-mm.
skill you develop, right? So
Yeah.
adaptability, like you talk about, there's the growth and comfort is a great little metaphor about a crab. Crab, when it needs to outgrow its shell, like it'll feel pain. It goes behind a dock, loses its shell, regrows its shell, right? There's no growth without first pain.
Yes.
How did you learn this skill of adaptability? Like what are the things that you do in real time when crap hits the fan that other people might not do?
Oh gosh. I'm going to answer this question honestly because it might be freeing to someone else. Um, I've never talked about this publicly, and if anybody was to go look up my brand, you'll never see my personal life. It's never a part of the brand. Um, the first was the heart attack was obviously the first one. The second one was my son being diagnosed with autism. You are forced to pivot quickly because things change day to day, minute to minute. You don't necessarily know you don't know what's going to be the trigger, or at least at the time, I didn't know what the trigger would be. And I didn't know, I just didn't know. Let's be honest. And if you have met one autistic child, you've met one autistic child. They're all different. The one that was the catalyst for my ultimate shift was actually my divorce. And that's the one piece I've never, ever talked about. And I had a decision to make. Do I evolve? Do I remain the same and choose stability, like we talked about? And yes, it's important that I create a stable life for my children. I get that part. But was I okay with this thing that happened to me? Or am I going to allow it to happen through me? And I was okay with it happening. We get through it and then expand into the person that God has created me to be. And it's not that it's easy, and it's not that life isn't hard. It's not that there aren't hardships, but we all have to decide in this moment, where do I go from here? And the scariest element for me is to be at the end of my life and be like, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Mhm.
Or how many times have you met someone and they deal with something, or they had a awful situation happen to them, and they're still angry in that
Still in it.
place 20 years later? And I refused to be that person. And so my option at that point was to really continue to dive deep into my faith, build my own confidence, do my IMs, have my prayer time, be in my word, take risks. But it doesn't mean that I wasn't scared. Like, let's be honest. There are so many times where I had imposter syndrome. Like, God, what am I doing here? And God's like, I called you here. Okay, well, that's good enough for me. And a lot of it is self-work. We all have to. Is, am I whole by myself? Am I healthy mentally? I was in therapy. Am I whole physically? I'm at the gym 5 days a week. Am I whole in my spiritual life? Is my spirit being fed the way that I need? And continually understanding that I am enough in every space that I'm in, at every seat that I fill, with every conversation that I have. I tell myself I am enough. And I have, like we said earlier, I have the audacity to believe that I am the exception. I
I
truly
like that.
believe that.
Gotta believe it. If you don't believe it, it doesn't come to be passed. And I intimately know the whole divorce thing, right? I don't know if you know my story, but like my wife and I, we were high school sweethearts, married, 3 kids, got divorced, and you start questioning like, am I valuable? What you start having guilt. There's shame
Yep.
tied to it. There's like you want to tuck away, and so I get that you probably haven't talked about it. It took me
Yep.
years to express that for myself, but then you get to the point where you're at now, which is the same place. I'm remarried to my ex-wife. We have an amazing marriage. Like it's beautiful, but there's something that you kind of poked in, and I don't know if people caught it, and I really want them to catch it. I want you to expand. And the thing was, you said you did the work. You actually listed off things you did. I'm a big proponent of action ends suffering.
Yes.
You did actions when most people wouldn't. When you were in the middle of those moments, I'm going to guess you didn't feel like doing most of it. It just
No.
had to get done, and you knew it, right? What were the things you did in real time, in like actual actions that people can apply, that you took that maybe didn't feel right or good or easy, but they nudged you along the path?
So if you are someone who's spiritual, YouTube is free. I was on
True.
YouTube every morning with something that would feed my spirit and feed my mind. I knew that I needed to be in therapy. Nobody really prepares you for divorce and what
Yeah.
that process is like. And so I was like, let me get that was literally the first thing I did right after I filed was I need to find a therapist now,
Smart.
now. And I was in therapy once a week for probably a year. And this is all of 2021. So this just happened.
Recent. Yeah.
And I'm really lucky that I have incredible close friends and a tight knit confidants that were okay with me having my moments and crying, which is fine, and feel when you need to feel. What I'm saying by far is not, don't avoid the feelings, have them, but
Mhm.
pick yourself back up. And at some point you tell yourself enough, okay, now what? And what
Yeah.
next? And I just kept chugging along of what's next. I have my health. My kids are healthy. My kids are amazing. And it was, is this going to be a blip in my story, or is this going to be the main factor of my story? And I decided that it was just going to be the blip. So we're going to go to therapy. We're going to get healthy. We're going to listen to sermons, listen to songs, make sure that I have incredible people around me. But also having the wherewithal to pivot quickly. I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing, but I
Yeah.
I pivot and adapt
Yeah.
when most people wouldn't, because in my mind I'm thinking, okay, it happened.
Mhm.
Okay. Same thing
Yeah.
my dad
I
said.
agree.
I told my dad the same thing after I told him, hey, this is happening. And he said, okay, it's fine. It happened. And I
Yeah.
wanted to have like a woe is me pity party. And he was like, it happened. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. There's a difference
What now?
between like people going, you're moving too fast through it, you feel it out. And there's a difference between that and also like, yeah, but I don't want to be here. Like, so the longer you stay there, the longer you stay there. And there's an interesting like symphonic, maybe rhythmic or symphony type, like how people live their lives that they experience it.
Yeah.
But you have this knack through practiced skill to say, look, I feel it, I understand it, I respect it. I'm
Yep.
going to now move forward. And
Yes.
and so that's probably been something you've been doing for longer than you probably know. Oddly, I find that if we look back, we go, oh, I was doing it back then.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sure it seeps through in the work you do. And I would love for you to unpack, like I know Lovestyle is this brand and you have this connection, you've made, revenue, you've built this. If someone was to come in your house and they go, hey, Sarah, what is this Lovestyle thing? How would you break it down? And what does it actually do for somebody's life?
It ties into everything we just talked about. The Sarah, obviously, is my name, which is the mother of all mothers in the biblical sense.
Yeah, true.
With love style, it's not the love of clothing. It's not the love of a makeup style. It's how do I choose to live my life every single day? It's can I choose to live in love, in compassion, in kindness, in awareness, in the people that I'm interacting with, whether that's somebody at Starbucks or wherever, at the grocery store. am I living my love style? Am I living this thing that I call my lifestyle? And it's a daily reminder of, have I done an act of kindness today, or have I been selfish? Have I been so involved with myself that, and sometimes that goes with our kids. Sometimes, I don't know about you, I can tell on myself. When I am the greatest, best entrepreneur and I am killing it, I'm probably not the best mom. The days when I'm the best mother and I am like, I am the ish today, I'm not the best boss. I know that. Which is also why this idea of balance, I don't find to be a real thing. At least not for me. I don't think balance is real, but we do the best that we can. And my hope is that people are choosing their lifestyles when they come to me, or when they meet me, or the brand, or any work that I've done, is that they choose their lifestyle. I think it's more important that people have a feeling when they meet you than an actual name. I don't care about titles, but how did I make you feel today? How did the brand make you feel about yourself? Were you encouraged? Do you feel self-love? Do you feel poured into in your faith? Do you feel spiritually motivated? Do you feel challenged? Those are all the things that I want people to feel when they either meet me or go to the brand.
I like it's good. And it's funny you say that. I can definitely relate to when business is good, family's not that great. Years ago, that was one of the big things that made my life fall apart. And I found that, like, what I do now, when I actually share, like, people go, what exactly do you do? What's the destination? I go, I try to get people to what I call hustle harmony. There's like this little monster that wants to be fed. I love to create. I love to do things. The business, it just excites me. I'm enamored by it. But I love my wife and I love my kids and I want them to never feel second. And I had to figure out how to have this beautiful harmony, like much like a song would have a drum line, a piano. But I'm like, sometimes the drum's going to be louder than the guitar, but sometimes the guitar is going to be, And so what you described, I agree. On this balance, I think there definitely is a harmony to it all. How do people, like, when they come in, I get this concept, right? This lifestyle. Is it like a coaching program? Is it a community they're part of? Is it books? Like, what exactly is the experience when they work with you?
So there is the coaching part, where we're having the deep conversations. What I find really interesting is that when someone comes to me and they say, hey, I want to start an online business, I want to become an influencer, or a content creator, right? Or I want to start a podcast. A lot of times the assumption is you start at the thought and the idea, but a lot of what we do begins with who we are and our past. If you don't necessarily have the characteristics, the personality, or if you haven't done the self-work, or, your story, Anthony, is how you got here, is why all of this started. My story is why it started. But if we're not real honest about our past and who we are, who are you influencing exactly? You want to be a content creator to monetize. Why? Why would anybody care? So that's usually where I start with coaching, right? And then there's the obviously there's the campaigns and all that stuff that I do as well. There's the agency where we are running. We're a full service agency, so we're running campaigns for brands, for small businesses, for influencers. We're running their pages, so everything that has to do with digital marketing, we do that as well. And then there's the speaking part of my business as well.
I like it. I like that you have this. I guess we'll call it diversification of the skill sets, right? Because I love that you do start with the person. I'm a person-centered human. I think at the end of the day, if you look at the people that we all admire, the impacted people, like in some way impacted people in a really cool way. And you can't just start with I want to make money, because you're going to be focused on money, not the people. You won't make money.
Right. No.
And I like this. Some years ago, somebody told me, they said, there's always going to be a message and a messenger. If you are the messenger with the wrong message, fall apart. If you have the right message but the wrong messenger, you're not going to get some connection. So I love what you're talking about in that aspect. As you look forward to this year of abundance, is anything Rehoboth? Rehoboth?
Mm-hmm. Well done.
I messed it up, but I got a little bit.
That was so good.
Oh, thank you. As you go and put this into the world, like, there's the thing you have for yourself. If you could put yourself in your client's shoes and go, man, what would abundance look like for them with you, right? Because there's things you're doing that maybe they're not going to be doing the same level, but I know that part of what you're doing is to grow them. If somebody was to come work with you, like, what is that abundance you're trying to get for them?
The first is internal. I'm not a therapist, but I do believe in the internal work. The second thing is, it's interesting. People are like, I want to monetize, but what does that mean to you? Because it could be 50,000, it could be 25,000, it could be 100,000, it could be 7 figures. What does that look like to you? And so figuring out how do we get you there? but I also want to expand people's ideas of how we get there. The thought that an influencer could become an investor wasn't a thing when I started. That was
True.
that was not a thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's, you know, maybe you have a podcast. Okay, cool. For example, Anthony, you have your podcast. I'd be
Yep.
like, why not do it in the metaverse? It doesn't
Good.
cost you anything.
True.
And then you
Are you
get on
actual
several
question you're asking me? Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
jump about. I know.
Yeah.
I've honestly, this is just a fun thing. We're actually, this is the first stage of us going like, let's go big. So we're getting a ton of cool new guests on. We're like 310 episodes in. It was just a weird accident of me having fun. So
Yeah.
that's actually a good question. I'm like, I don't know. Why don't we go hang out in the metaverse? Put
Why
some
not?
VR goggles on, just hang out in my studio. I could do that.
And we could be having this conversation in the metaverse. So now you're
Yeah.
monetizing inside the metaverse. You
Mhm.
could be monetizing your podcast on all the different platforms. And then you've got YouTube. So it's expanding beyond what do you think is tangible and measurable right now. It's how are we strategic about expanding?
Yeah.
Because then you could take it and now you take the podcast or you take whatever you created in the metaverse and now you just created your NFT. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I get it. I like the way it. What's always seen things for me is like the more I can consume and learn, the more I can connect dots anybody else can't.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what you've done is gone like, I'm gonna go and try these new things, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and invest and try and engage. You learn a whole lot because
Yeah.
I'm sure you're still learning about NFTs, learn about crypto. But the more you consume, you go, oh wait, you know what? I know this thing now, but I know you don't know this thing like I do. But I can see that, and now you start creating nuanced ways to grow. So part of what you're talking about is like, actually, you got to go out there and learn and try and build and put energy into something. But then that's how you get those unique, why didn't I think of that ideas? Because
Yes.
you weren't in the box.
Correct. And also, I'm a connector. So maybe I don't know something. So how do I connect you to somebody else who does know? And then God knows what happens from there.
Yeah.
I also don't believe in a crabs in a barrel mentality. So if we're working together, my network is your network.
Smart. It's very smart. I think it's one of the things people don't grasp. What's cool about this world that I live in is like I do something different than anybody else. Like my
Yeah.
work's on identity and expanding capacity, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like the things that you do. If I was to probably look at your schedule in any given day, the things that are going on, I'm sure somebody else would look at you and go, I couldn't get that done in the next 2 weeks. You're doing it today. Like there's
Mhm.
this expansion, right? So that's my
Mhm.
work, but no one else really does that. So I
Yeah.
have no problem connecting anybody to anybody because it doesn't hinder me. And
Correct.
that's what's beautiful when you know what you're supposed to do in this world and you show up in this space differently.
Yeah. And I'm not
Yeah.
blocking my own blessings. So that's the other one too.
Oh, say that again. Say
I'm
it one
not
more time. I like
blocking my
that.
own blessing.
Oh,
I'm not a blessing
yeah.
of you.
I like that. Not block them out. Somebody one time told me that money, they call it currency because at the end of the day, it's got to be a current. If you don't put something out to the current, it can't flow back to you.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Right? I was like, oh,
Yeah.
look at that. I don't even know where I heard it before. But I was like, that's one of those like block your bless. That's cool. Those are ones that actually people hear and they go, oh, so much depth to it though. Those simple words are incredibly powerful. Man, I have thoroughly enjoyed this. And I have one more question, which if you listen to a podcast, you know what it is. You know what it is?
Give it to me.
Oh, here we go. Here's the question. It's actually a good one because you're a person of faith. What promise did God make to the world when he created you?
It would be so that's funny. My name was supposed to be Umnat, which means faith. And this woman at the refugee camp said, no, her name is Sara. She will make impact. She will create change, and she will be her name. And my parents weren't Christians at the time, and they were like, okay. And they were like, she will be the mother of all mothers, which is what it means biblically. And that is what I was created to do. That is who I am. I am made to impact. I am made to be a change maker. I am made to go against the current and show the possibilities of what can be, but to also leave the door open. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't have a problem creating a table for myself. I do it with ease. I'm at the point now, and that's not arrogance. That is my faith and my confidence that tells me I can and I will. But I don't want to eat by myself. Life is not meant to be done alone. And so if it's one person and then it's a second person and we fill the table and we eat together, and then those people, which can be painful, by the way, and it's already happened to me twice in 2021 where the table expanded and somebody needed, and it was their time to go build their own table. It's a painful process, but I know that I cannot be selfish. they need to go, and then expand that table, and then it continues. So how do I in my life expand the impact that's so far beyond me that it has nothing to do with me? And I know that
Mm,
that's my purpose.
I like it. It's good. I think it's like the whole aspect of growth as a society, right? Is to do things at a level that's truly the state of understanding abundance. Like it's the fact that nothing's gonna hinder me, but if I go and help somebody do something great, like it actually just grows everything. Because there's a weird wavelength to the world. We'll call it the universe, God, that I think God wants us to go do those things. You do those things and he gives you more of whatever you desire most. And then you find out that what you thought you desired, you don't, and he gives you something better. It's like,
No.
oh, I didn't know. Didn't even know I wanted that, but thank you.
Yes.
This has been fun. I've thoroughly
Thank
enjoyed talking to you. Is if I was to send some people your way, where would be the absolute best place for people to find you, consume your work, engage in what you do?
So it's Sara Lovestyle across all platform. I made it easy. It's saralofestyle.com. It is Sara Lovestyle. Sara Lovestyle. I did add a 20 because that's the day of my birth on TikTok, but everything is Sara Lovestyle.
Nice. I like it. All right. Sign off. You got anything you want to tell people? If you were like, hey, I'm at this coffee shop. I'm thinking about doing this final question. I'm at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You got 20 seconds to tell me something, and then you're going to walk out. I can't respond to you, but like, I'm going to take this and live with it. What would that be?
The thing that you dreamt about as a child, pursue it.
It's good. That's simple. I don't need anything else. That's good. I honestly think that's a good one. I will give one addition because I do
Hmm.
think for me as a kid, like I didn't have dreams as a kid. I would
Really?
also, well, because I was a foster kid. My dream was
Yeah.
like, I want to have a household.
Yeah.
I want to have some place to call home. So I
Yeah.
didn't have much dreams. But when I had a dream, I did pursue it. Football was like the first one that anchored in, and I pursued it. And I think
Pursue
that
it.
for me, the thing was like, when I have a dream, no matter what it is or when, because it changed. When I was a dad, it changed. You know, when I opened
Yeah.
businesses, it changed. But
Absolutely.
like what you said, pursuing it's the
Pursue it.
most important. I think humans are made to move. We're made to be in motion, made to do things. And when you get stagnant, you start
Yeah.
dying
Yes.
inside and then I think outside, unfortunately, because I think whenever you stay stagnant, you tell the world like, "Hey, world, I'm done doing anything better," and then the world gets
Yeah.
rid of you. That's why retirement's scary for me. So we're off on a different tangent at the end of this. My apologies, but my heart went there.
No, I'm with
Thank
you
you.
there.
I'm glad you get it.
Yes.
Seriously, thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you coming and spending time here. Those of you who are still watching, hanging out, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I know you could have been anywhere on the internet doing anything with your time, but you chose to come hang with us. And I believe that if we take something from you, your time, we better give something great back. And Sara did just that. So do me a favor. If you enjoyed this episode, share it, rate, review, all the good things so more people can hear it. And also, if there's someone in your life that you know needs to hear this message, share it with them directly. Pop a little thing into their inbox, whatever you got to do, put it into their life so that they can get that seed planted and hopefully grow to something great. Outside of that, as always, make the most of your off shift moments so you can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks and Sara Lovestyle signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning into the Oz Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.